There we go.
I'm going to call to order the Topsham Community Center Committee on April 11, 2022. Should we, well, Mary Kate's on Zoom, and otherwise Erica McKenney, Steve Kessler, Pam Luke, myself, Leslie Byrne, Lynn Soroy, and Mark Walsh. So I don't know, it feels like I should do that. So do we want to accept the draft minutes from the March 21st, 2022 meeting?
Leslie, I just have one teeny tiny change to the minutes from what Pam sent out. Rob, he has an eagle eye. He found a typo. So it's just a difference between an A and an as. It's on number 4. The section is presentation Q&A, and it's bullet number 4 underneath there. And I had said would make it easier for committee members to participate well, and it should say as well. So I will make that correction and take draft off and send it to Pam if everybody's okay with that.
Yes.
All in favor?
All in favor? Yes. I'm in favor. Great. So update on membership. Roger Nadeau is a gentleman that I talked with. He is interested in being on the committee. I think did he put the application in, but hasn't met with the select
but it
board
was
yet?
not in time to be, there wasn't enough time slots left to be interviewed the day that Lynn and Erica were.
Okay.
So he's scheduled for the 21st.
I think
Okay.
is Jenna trying to get in?
Oh. We will promote her too. She's also earned it.
So 5/21 is the next select board meeting.
Yes. And that is also the financial night for the public hearing of the budget, right, Mark?
Yes.
And then I was also told today that there's another person from Woodside School who has 2 kids at Woodside who is interested in being on the committee. She's very sports oriented, and I don't like, I'm sorry, I should have written down her name. So if we get an application, there's another person who may be coming our way. Anybody else? Hi, Jenna. She's in the car.
Hey,
As you said, you might take meetings from the car.
oh, we got a soccer practice going on. I got an hour, so we're good.
Oh, good, perfect. So maybe we'll follow up with that. Anybody else that we're waiting on? Susan who came to the last meeting from the Highlands, Susan Bowditch, said that she will come when she can as a guest. So she did contact me and let me know that she does not want to officially be on the committee, but that she wants to come and participate. So that'd be nice. How many more committee members are you hoping for? We've had 7 and that works. Rob's schedule doesn't always allow him to be here. So I would say we've talked about not really limiting it, having a couple more members is definitely okay. I am interested in having multi-generational representation. So anybody with younger kids, which is hard to do, right? Or to get out at night when you have little kids, or older generation is, underrepresented, I think, on the committee. So it's
And Pam and I aren't actually committee members. We
Right.
just support. We don't help with
Sure.
stuff.
good. Anything else with new membership? Jenna or Mary Kate? No.
I don't think so.
You don't think so? Okay.
No,
Keep talking it up. And do we just want to keep that with word of mouth? Do we want to put out any sort of? I think it's fine to just do word of mouth still. We seem to be reaching people who might be interested more than just a broad net that we throw. Okay. So Pam and Mark have an update on Bob Barcelona's involvement. So Erica, you're remembering because you were that the UNH connection that we made. So we're going to get an update on that and then committee discussion on next steps.
So the Wednesday that we were supposed to, actually, Mark had already submitted everything to the administrative assistant to put us on the agenda for a report and then a request to spend the money. We received an email from Bob saying that after having talked with us on Monday of that week, that he really had mulled it over and over in his gut, and he just didn't feel comfortable. So he asked if we had a moment, had time to speak, and I went and got Mark and said, you know, let's try to connect, and we connected that afternoon, but Mark went ahead and pulled it once we knew there was some considerations to be made.
Okay.
We spoke to him for probably a half an hour. And I think that he is feeling very pulled from moving to Clemson, selling his house. Feels like the summer is going to be very transitional for him. Would really like to be on the ground at Clemson and know that things are going to go smoothly before he would consider going into another agreement. I believe he felt the contract would be through Clemson. And that would be his subcontract, you know, he would do the on the ground work here. So I think that was pretty much it. And we kind of felt, I'm trying to think, we felt that, I mean,
I think our sense was we were trying to find out, is this, I'm not interested at all, or is this just not right now? And it was definitely just not right now.
Yeah.
He said that he wants a chance to kind of get established there and get his relationships with administration, figure out he's going to do this, all that stuff. And we said, you know, what would timing maybe look like? Would it be 6 months, a year, whatever it would be? And, you know, and he said he thought he could still probably do things as of like September. But he just wanted a chance to get established there first. And so, you know, we said, I guess we have got two ways we could go. You know, one is we could do an RFP and put it out and see what we get. One benefit to that might be we're going to get a bunch of quotes for between $50,000 to $70,000,
Yeah.
and we're going to see what a deal he is. The other benefit might be that if we do that, yeah, I don't know what it's a benefit. I guess it would be benefit to get some quotes, but we also, I don't think the select board are expecting us to spend anywhere like 50 or 70,000. So we could put out an RFP and get a bunch of quotes that we can't really act on. Well, I guess the other thought was this: if you pulled out all together, then we haven't kind of stopped moving progress forward and things. He said even if we did that, he'd probably still put in a bid, or you know, but he would be happy, just as happy to do not to have to write the response to the RFP.
Yeah.
So kind of what we're thinking that the choices are at this point is either we kind of wait till August till he gets, you know, established and go back to him, or when we work together, put an RFP to put out and we see what we get. You never really know unless you get something back.
Is it an option to work with Matt Fry from UNH?
not really, because Matt is not the department chair at UNH, and to contract with him, that, I don't believe that's an option. That clearly is something that Bob has taken with him. And he does, as Bob said, he does a lot of the analyzational stuff, and he'll take a look at, you know, the facilities and programs and vicinity to other areas and communities and that type of thing that he puts his work in. That's what he does. Matt is the process person that would work with us for, and I'm kind of thinking that the selectmen do a business expo in September, and we talked about making it a food truck social event for a business expo for the town, and thought that might be a great way to get people to come stop by, and that would be in, you know, at latter end of September. Where they could contribute, or that could be a way of using, you know, and we could spend time on planning and organizing and thinking about how do we gather the data, the rest of the data that we want. So I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I can tell you, I know that Brunswick is paying over $80,000. But they have a document and they're planning to go for federal money because they've, you know, kind of gone that way. I don't, you know, I don't think that's what we're looking for. And I think for those of us who were here when we took an RFP to the selectmen before, I have a little bit of anxiety
Yeah.
over it, having experienced it once when they really, I kind of feel like we need to go to them in the next month or two
Yeah.
and give a report and say what's
Yeah.
happened and where we're at and that type of thing. But I mean, it's really up to you folks as for sure. I just, I don't know if that's the answer or not.
Two other points before you guys start discussing it is, we said, you're gonna have, there are other groups coming to you, so that you might end up taking them rather than us. And he said, no, he said, you guys are the next on my list. So if I was gonna do anyone, I'm gonna do you guys. And he said, I've actually already turned down another group. And we also asked, if we were gonna wait for you and we wanted to be productive in our time in the meantime, what would you suggest? And he said, I'd work on your stakeholder groups.
Yeah.
So he said, think of the different groups that you want to get input and into the needs assessment, and then start working on those connections. He said, because that's the most important part, and that I need you guys for, is to help with the invites and figure out who it is that might be interested in participating in the groups.
All right, where do we want to go?
With summer coming, I know Mary Kate brought up all of our busy schedules and all that, so I don't know if this really delays us at all if we stuck with it.
Yeah. I want to hear from him, like, is he still 90% in? Is he 70% in? Is he, 30% in? It's sort of, I feel like we need to get some sort of a gauge. I know he can't predict, but,
And we did ask him that. I'd say the answer was like 80 to 90.
okay,
So I think the only thing keeping him is he's worried, he's going to a brand new job.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't know, I guess, for absolute certain that they're gonna say, let him do this. Or maybe as his department head chair there, he's got all kinds of other responsibilities in UNH and there isn't time. I think that's the only thing that would keep him from this, which he says he should know by August. So during the month of July, he'll get that figured out.
okay,
And he did, as he said to us before, he is vested because it is a teaching tool that he uses for the students in the
Yeah.
classroom.
Yeah.
And he uses it to open their door, and their perspective in the profession.
Mhm.
So I think that's a big plus.
It seems like a good sign too, if he turned down another job.
yeah,
But I understand where you're coming from. You want to know if he's
Right.
100% committed.
right, if we're waiting. I absolutely agree that we should present something to the select board, just to let them know what we've been going through and just to touch base. So I think I would support us getting on that.
Yep.
Next agenda, if it's an agenda.
If you look
that
at it
can
from the
handle.
outside, he's been 100% on board twice, and now he's 80%. So it's kind of, there's a trend, but we know him kind of,
Mhm.
so it's, you kind of have to look beyond that, I
Mhm.
guess, but.
I'll be honest, I think that's personally, knowing him as long as I have, because he's presented and done a lot of workshops with us over the years. At the state association level, I think it's because of his relationship, knowing me a little bit and working on projects, that he doesn't want to let us go.
Yeah.
And I think he feels an obligation.
Yeah.
But I also think he wants to do it, because he's a very, they're both very engaging people, and I mean, they're enjoyable to work with. They have that broad spectrum. So.
There it is.
Yeah,
Can I speak?
yeah, please.
Yeah, so first of all, I want to say, Mark, you anticipated most of my questions, so you guys did a really good job being thorough, I think, in asking Bob those questions. My one question that I have is that what would be a downside? So say, for example, Bob is not able to do this, and I don't know when he would let us know, if that was something that you asked, like if he would be able to gauge, like we would know by like August or something.
Early to mid-August is what he said. So.
Okay, so is there any real downside? I mean, given that, the select board was kind of like, this is not a community center emergency, like, if we had to push this back and we had to regroup in the fall and send out the RFP then, I mean, is there a downside?
Just that it takes more time, it just puts it back a few months, right?
Right. I mean, the other thing you could do too is if we get you on the schedule, say the May 5th meeting to do an update, you could say, here's where we're at, here's what we're looking, and if they say, unless you feel otherwise, we're thinking we're gonna wait for Mr. Barcelona to make a decision in early August.
Yeah.
But if you want us to put it out to RFP, then we could do that or something.
Yeah.
And kind of let them have the final say.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we have an RFP document
Yeah.
that just needs some minor adjustments and,
Mhm.
That's not the budget that we were talking about, the 50 to 70,000, that's not the budget.
no, Andrew's, I mean, the RFP that Andrew put together for us in the very beginning was looking at that, we were thinking of that 15,000 because that's what had kind of been earmarked. The reason we liked Bob was because he was even more affordable and there was a teaching tool to it.
I believe they had talked about having students come to do some of the work. And I believe that that's still an option for the UNH students through Matt to continue to do that, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Well, I would recommend that we do that. We go to I thought it was May 21st meeting?
Or April 21st
Oh,
is a
April
meeting.
21st. Oh,
If
okay.
you want to go that soon,
And then
we
May
could get
5th.
you, or May 5th would be the next one after that. I'd almost say you're better off waiting to May 5th.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
second part of the town meeting warrant.
Sure,
It has a chance of being long.
okay. So we go present to the select board on what we've been doing with our plan to wait for Bob's decision in early August.
Exactly.
And then plan to move forward if he can't do it.
Yeah.
Okay,
And you can throw out to them, unless, if you want us to do an
Yeah.
RFP this time, but what we're getting is probably the quotes are gonna come in 50 to 70,000.
Yeah.
Barcelona's willing to do it for 15, so.
I thought he was 10.
No.
Ten?
Was it 10?
We
Oh, yeah, it was 10.
Well, we want padding, so 15 is good.
Yeah.
Yeah, 10 to 15, we'll say 10.
Gotta get pizza and
Right,
beer.
sandwiches, food trucks. Now we're talking food trucks, so.
Can I make a quick comment? This is Jenna. I was just gonna say that also when you talk to them, perhaps you could just say, maybe we find out a little bit more in the next couple of weeks, or maybe maybe what you got, Mark, already was just what we're gonna be doing in the interim, so they don't think we're not doing anything, perhaps the stakeholder piece, and maybe there's other, I don't know, data collection tool prep that we would need to be doing that. So when it comes down to the time for him to start working with us, we've already done some of the things he might ask us to do. If maybe we could ask if there's more than just the stakeholder piece. Like, I don't know, I'm just thinking of what other things might, because ultimately, and I'm picturing what he's going to ask us is, what do you need to know? And I mean, I know he's done a lot of these or similar things, but basically we still might have to do some figuring of what exactly it is that we're going to have him be discussing with the stakeholders, I guess, if I understand it correctly. So I don't know, at minimum, maybe we could just give some sort of an update about what we'll be doing in the interim as well.
That sounds great.
I agree.
Okay, you agree?
I think Jenna's got a good point. Yeah.
I also think we need to get back in touch with Bob and tell him our plan.
Mhm.
And let him know that maybe knowing more than what we can gather, that's more than just the stakeholders. So, or after we've done that conversation, we can ask him for more. The question is he willing to just work with us in the interim until August? Short little conversation.
And then when we asked him at the meeting, the big thing he was looking for was just the stakeholders. He really didn't come up with anything else. Couple things, or that I think probably Pam and I would throw in, is maybe Pam's going to cover this later in the meeting, but she was reached out to by the group that's doing hopefully their indoor sports center out at the old Roller World.
Yeah, nice. Mhm.
Yeah, that wanted the community center to be an ice thing or somehow work together. So it might be worthwhile to meet with them and see what their vision is and what they're looking for too and stuff.
Any of you know Ken Stockford?
Mhm.
Ken is on that committee. I think
I do.
Nate Wallace is.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of,
Oh,
but,
Sarah's on there. For Sarah.
okay, yeah. So there's a committee, they've reached out. I think their liaison really was our economic and community development person who is out and will be retiring probably by the end of May.
He is?
Not sure.
Yeah, he is.
He is
Retired
that
in
definitely?
27.
No. Oh, good for him.
Might bring energy to us as well, right?
Correct. Yeah, I mean, we haven't advertised or anything. We're waiting to get through the budget season first and then figure it
Yeah.
out. We may restructure stuff too.
Okay. But needless to say that that's another, I do think it's worth sitting with Six Rivers and chatting with them at least to find out. I think if you check out their website, you can kind of see what their interest is and what they're hoping to do. I know that they're struggling a little bit financially. I think the ice rink is coming along, but I don't know, they're not sure what they're gonna, how soon they'll be able to do the other things.
I'll reach out.
Steve will reach out to Six Rivers. What is it? What's their full name?
Six Rivers Community.
I'm on their page.
Okay, yeah.
Right? Anything else with the Bob Barcelona involvement discussion? I think we're good. So we were talking about having Mark do a presentation on just a 501c3 and see what information we gather and where we want to go with it. So
I will talk for a couple minutes if
Okay,
you'd like.
yeah.
So basically, to set up a 501c3, we would need to have a board of directors that wanted to be involved for the purposes of this group. As long as we make the purposes of the group, because we're a town, there's other ways we could get things deductible. But if we make the purpose of the 501c3 to be furthering a charitable or educational purpose, then contributions to that group you could get approved to have be tax deductible, which makes it easier to get contributions if you do that. So it would be a completely independent organization. The steps are you'd write your bylaws for the group, have articles of incorporation, then you'd fill out a form with the IRS, form 1023, which is like about 40 pages long. And it has basically a lot of details about the group. You have projected budgets for the first few years. And then if you end up meeting your projected budgets and the IRS likes your projected budgets, they think it's a charitable purpose, then you get like conditional charitable approval. And then as you file each year's tax return, it stays charitable as long as you use the money for the purposes intended and stuff. So that would be one way we could do it, is have a completely separate group. Advantage of that, I guess, to the people doing the fundraising, they might feel like they have more control over it. You know, we're raising this money, and then the disadvantage to it might be, as far as the town trying to get this done, is now you have the select board maybe on one page, and you might have the charitable group on another. Another way to do it might be like we've set up Topsham Development Inc. is the members of Topsham Development Inc. are actually the select board. So although it's a separate organization, it's easier for just to kind of stay in concert with the town's goals because they're the members of it. And you don't have perhaps concerns on the part of the select board that if you have a completely separate nonprofit, they might be concerned about this group that's raising a bunch of money for something, but what if the group doesn't necessarily want the purpose to be the same as the select board, or more importantly, the voters at town meeting that they come up with. So then the third way we could potentially is just have a group of people that are fundraising, but have it all done in the name of the town. Because we have something on the town meeting warrant each year that the town's allowed to accept gifts for particular purposes and put them in reserve funds. So you could raise money, let's say you raised $40,000 one year to go towards the community center. It can be put in that fund specially for that purpose. It wouldn't get spent for other things, and it gets rolled over to the next year and stuff. And that way you don't have to go through the headache of setting up a completely separate nonprofit organization, having tax returns done. And you don't have to worry, you've got kind of unity of control. Ultimately, it's the town meeting that makes the decisions. And then as they direct the select board, and since it's the town meeting that's gonna have to pass probably a bond for at least some part of this, probably, I think that way probably would make more sense than a completely separate organization, is just have a group that's gonna, you know, they call themselves Friends of the Topsham Community Center still, but they're basically raising money that's turned over to the town, maintained by the town. Not in Topsham, but I've seen experiences in other towns where there's separate funds that it gives the finance department headaches, because all of a sudden, why does this person have the town's tax ID number on this fund? This isn't town control, where is it from? And it's causes issues for the insurance company and whatever else. So those would be the three models, I think, is you could have a completely separate nonprofit. You could have a nonprofit that's made up, say, of the select board as the members, but there's more town control in that. And then you could have the money is just a reserve account that a group of people raises funds for. And you spend for that purpose, but ultimately it's the town meeting that makes the, you know, decide how it gets spent.
Mary Kay has a question.
Oh.
Go ahead, Mary Kay.
So thanks, Mark. That's really helpful. One of the advantages that you had talked about with the 501c3 is the tax deductible donation. Would that still apply if it was a group just raising money for the town?
Yes. So if you things that you pay to the town for like donations are tax deductible.
Sponsorships in the soccer program are tax deductible.
And those might even be for a business expense, you know, so in that case, it might be someone deducts it as a business expense. But if I wanted to just think I want to do good for the people of Topsham and write a check to the town of Topsham, and I'm not talking about my tax, well, taxes are deductible for different reasons, but that is deductible if you make a contribution to the town.
Okay. Thank you.
That was my question as well. So the easiest way sounds like the nonprofit for, you know, the special fund to raise money and just keep it, have the town put the money, yeah, in the reserves, that's great.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, because there was discussion, Mary Kay and I touched base about, you know, would it be us that would be creating it and how does that work? So I think it's just a matter of collecting people who want to do fundraising.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that's the.
So Mark, you mentioned that the funds could be, you know, basically, I don't know, earmarked or whatever for this specific project so that they wouldn't get spent on something else. I mean, how do you protect that? Like if the select board changes or the town manager changes, that like in policy or in law, or like how would we?
So in our each year's town meeting warrant, we have an article that allows the town to accept funds given to it for a particular purpose, put them in a reserve account for that purpose, and expend them for that purpose. Now, I guess if everyone wanted to go against that, you know, let's say that we got 50,000 built up in that fund, and then for some reason, maybe a community center isn't going to be built. I guess at town meeting, at that point, maybe someone can make a proposal to spend it some other way, but I think more like, it depends, I guess, who goes to the town meeting. I mean, more like you probably have people say, what, give it back to the person that it was intended from. And before this fund was set up, maybe that would be an understanding with the select board, is say, we're willing to raise money for the town. Seems like the most effective and easiest administrative thing is to turn over the town for this purpose. But you know, we'd like to have, and probably understanding is the word, it probably wouldn't be legally binding. So we'd just like to have your understanding that if for some reason this never gets built, that the money could get offered back to the people that donated it. It's probably hard for $5 contributions, but you know, for $10,000 ones, I would think that would be pretty easy.
And would there be any rules around us as the committee participating in that?
I mean, as far as helping get the money?
Yeah.
I don't think there would be for you, there probably would for Pam and I, because we'd have to make, people would want to not be put in a bad place by a town employee, you know, feel like they have to contribute or else they're not going to get some type of.
It's kind of like the police department can't
Yeah.
solicit money,
The police-
all those companies that try to get money for the police department.
The police department is definitely much stricter
Program, yeah.
rules but under law, but in our ethical codes, we can't put people in a position that they feel like they're not going to get town services if they don't contribute.
Yeah.
So we probably couldn't, but there's nothing that says that you guys couldn't, you know, try to raise money for people.
Because no, I just, because one of the things that Leslie and I had talked about is that like if members of the committee participated in fundraising, it feels like then we're not an exploration committee anymore, where we've committed to fundraising for this thing committee.
And this is just my thought, but I think we definitely would not want to start any of this at this point.
Yeah.
It's certainly not a separate nonprofit, but I think even the other part, I think we first wait till we get to that stage. You know, we'd wait and see if after the needs assessment and whatever after that, and we wanted the commitment that things are moving forward, I think, before we want to, because you're right, otherwise I think it would be perceived as we've got the cart before the horse.
Yeah, okay.
Great, so we'll be cautious with that to make sure we're doing it on the correct timeline. Okay. Any other questions? So we had talked about, or on the agenda is stakeholders in the community, just maybe having an initial discussion about that, I think is probably reasonable to do. And the other information I put down, which was things that I thought maybe Bob would want, is focus groups. How do we move forward on this? Location considerations for pop-ups and responding to survey respondents. So let's start with stakeholders in the community and just see, I think.
So probably the first step from my understanding of what he was telling us, figure out the groups you want. You know, then, you know, maybe a group is, as Mary Kate was saying, you want a group of people involved in the arts, maybe is one of the groups. And maybe there's a group of young parents and a group of seniors. And so from what Bob seemed to be saying, figure out the people that you think would be the constituencies, you know, of this community center or not, I guess. And then once you figure out what your groups are, then try to fill them out. You know, who can you get to participate?
Okay, that's great. So what are our groups in that way? So I'll put older community. Okay. Those with young children.
And I think we can grow with this as we go, as we meet. We can have the stakeholders and add to it as, I mean, from meeting to meeting.
And I put arts because you. Yes.
I think that's reasonable in some of it.
What other groups do we need to think about?
I think it'd be appropriate to put people with, to include, you know, could be young or old that don't have children. That it's not their primary focus, and see what their wishes and desires might be for something for them that would not be. I feel like my mind is always centered around kids, but that's not for everybody.
Well, and I was thinking about like, you know, the teen population. Like, there's so many teens and finding things for them to do and places to be that are safe.
Yeah, right. What else?
And the arts could have subcategories within it, so it's kind of, you want culture, you want all sorts of things.
Did we talk about businesses, like thinking that like if the space was gonna be rented out, like, you know, maybe like independent contractors or people who might want to use the space, teach classes and things like that?
What I thought when you said businesses is there a place to have local businesses that are either for or concerned about the movement of a community center? Because I know that Ruth has been needing, you know, to have, we want to include that kind of a conversation. So I think that might be another avenue for businesses, but so businesses that are interested in renting potentially. maybe.
Yeah. But also what you're saying too, I guess, people, you know, businesses who might already be providing some of the services that, you know, people have raised. I'm not sure, I guess they're sort of two different things, I guess, but.
Yeah. I can tell you prior to COVID, it was not uncommon for us to get called 3 to 4 times a month with community group, business groups looking for a place to rent, to do a class, a realtor group looking to, you know, teach some sort of a real estate course. There's a lot of a need for a space in the area for that type of stuff.
What other kind of businesses would contact you?
Well, we've heard a lot from other nonprofits that need a place for training, for
Mhm.
instance, Head Start.
Mhm.
People like that, we're looking at for space. I know the fire station gets, or the safety building gets requests for, they have.
It's
they have
either
a
a
couple of
domestic
groups.
violence group
A
or a
domestic, yeah.
parenting class or.
Yeah,
Yeah, I came
Well, I know
to-
my coalition has historically done trainings in the fire station room. I know we always are looking for spaces. So anyone similar to me in that respect, just for a meeting or for a training or
Remind me the organization, Jenna.
what's that?
Amy, who are you affiliated with?
Oh, my community coalition, Southern Mid Coast Communities for Prevention.
What'd she say?
Southern Mid Coast Needs and Prevention.
Communities for Prevention.
Communities.
Access Health. It's all
The
part of Mid
access.
Coast. I mean, I do tons of trainings through Mid Coast. We used to find spaces when we did a lot of in-person classes. I mean, everything's just changed a little bit right now, but I mean, eventually we'll probably get back to some of that. For our mental health, youth mental health trainings, we always are looking for spaces. Like there's a lot of need for that, I think, I'm just one group. So, and the other thing I was thinking about, maybe Mary Meeting Adult Ed would be a good group, or maybe that school angle from a Mary Meeting Adult Ed. And then I was also thinking, I mean, I think we should.
Remember that, the only thing that I caught, and I hate this because it's not how I feel, but my caution goes up every time we talk about the school district with the select board. There's a line in the sand that's there, that I just want us to be cautious of.
What about yoga classes and things like that? Like,
Yeah.
Is there?
Tai Chi, there's a lot of those different types of, and Jenna, I'm not saying no, I'm just saying we have to be careful how we go about it, because that was when it kind of, put a stops on this committee to a certain extent the last time. As much as we all know how important it is, they are very territorial over Topsham. And I think that's what we have to be cautious with.
Yeah, no, like I get it. I just was thinking about space and people who are like host things and, you know, offer for the community. There's a lot of offerings that they do for the community. So
Yeah, and they're starting to do more like youth stuff in the arts this summer.
Do we want to transition to businesses that might have concern? And that would be like the gyms in the area.
I think that's probably a good
That type
idea,
of-
because I always think that's the third rail. We want to make sure we don't cross. So the best way
Exactly.
to find out you don't cross it is to find out who might have concerns.
Mhm.
I agree.
So what gyms in the area?
Well, New
New
England
England Fitness.
Fitness is the one I think that Ruth is most connected with, that she's heard expressed concerns.
CrossFit,
Yeah, probably.
Blackbridge, no, that's Brunswick.
Tennis club in Brunswick.
I mean, there's some independent contractors, you know, like, I mean, Chris Farrell has a gym. I think there's like maybe one or two yoga studios or kickboxing. I've just seen there's like isn't there like a biking, like a Peloton type place? There's like people doing it out of their houses, I think.
Is the biking places in Brunswick, isn't it out on the base? Is there one in Topsham? I haven't heard about it. Don't know, okay.
I don't know. I get these things on Instagram and whatever. I don't always look.
well, the Spark is the cycling studio is on the base. I don't know if that's what you're talking about, but
Maybe.
well, I guess doesn't it depend on like what we end up, I mean, I guess is there even like a decision about what it would be in it? Like, how do we know who's going to be like kind of worried if we don't even know what's going to be there? Like, I don't know. I mean,
Probably part of the needs assessment is as they try to figure out the needs of the community, they would, if there's things that are private businesses are providing, that would be maybe things we could rule out.
Mhm. And I think we gather this information and then we would talk with Bob and say, these are the stakeholders we've come up with. Are these ones that you think we should pursue?
Mhm.
It could be
Yeah.
just a conversation.
Are we separating out childcare from like younger families?
We did not have a childcare yet, but we can.
There's probably two different types of childcare, right? There's childcare for people that are maybe while they're at a meeting at the facility or something versus childcare as a goal, which then would be back into the business conversation.
Right, but as far as the stakeholders, what childcare is in Topsham, do we need to connect with?
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
And one other thing I thought about is, and this maybe could be added to an existing group, but just people with disabilities.
Okay. All right, let's move on to arts and culture, sort of in that same avenue. Who would we contact in the community that might have links to arts and culture?
Down in the lower village, there is the brick, what is it?
Fiber arts.
Fiber arts.
Is there someone, Lynn, that you?
Jenna,
mentioned?
you're muted.
Yeah, sorry. The art
art-
van, isn't that around?
I think that's Brunswick, isn't it?
Is it? I guess I thought I saw it here at the church in Topsham, but I don't know exactly where it's based out of, but potentially I think they do work in all of, I don't know, they might have some good connections, if anything.
Mandy, what's Mandy's place?
Painted dog, but she's in Brunswick.
Is she in Brunswick now? So she moved over, okay.
I mean, there were definitely some art people that we connected with when we did the comp plan. I mean, Robin Brooks, I think she lives in Topsham. She was the art teacher at Williams Cone, and I know she's an artist.
Yeah. And she teaches Tai Chi as well. There's a yoga studio out on Cadhance, I know.
There was the barn.
The
okay.
barn that's closed.
And your friend Susan was mentioning a connection. Was it with the symphony, Leslie, at the last meeting?
I don't know
She did discuss that.
what the link is to Topsham in that way.
I do believe that when the Highland Green area was first built, that they went up, the Portland Symphony did 4th of July concerts and different things like that up there.
Not quite on the same level as the symphony, but maybe the Merrimaid Community Band.
Okay.
It might be a place to practice or something.
Are they still in existence?
We were pre-COVID,
Okay.
so I'm hoping we get back together.
We learn something new about you every day.
Yeah.
That's great, okay.
So you're not gonna play?
But Main State Music Theater,
We
maybe,
told my
and
truck,
Front
trucks came across
Symphony.
the bridge, so.
Okay.
What did you play, the tuba? No, I'm joking.
Trombone, trumpet, or baritone, depending on the year, or sometimes by the song.
All right, how about we go to teens?
I think a lot of what Jenna said as far, I mean, I think there's the mental health aspect, but there's also the a place to be or a place to exist for them.
Could we connect with therapists in the community just to brainstorm with them to see what they think teens need? Invite some local therapists
Yeah.
as a group.
I think it'd be great if we could ask some teens.
Right, what I was thinking, teens, right?
Yeah, but I think we could get some like,
Pretty good.
student-
Go ahead, Jenna.
what'd you say?
I said, we have a pretty good list of phone numbers and text.
I can think of 3 from this committee, 4 probably. But anyway, yeah, I don't know. I think I would ask teens and maybe even maybe not the schools, but school folks engaging, maybe guidance or something.
Yeah.
I was thinking that, but I didn't know about going to the school. in
I think
that
we're
way.
talking about our elementary schools and our kids. who
Yeah.
are, You know, I don't
Yeah.
think that's about
We
it.
talk to People Plus to see what they do for the Brunswick Teen Center too.
What do you,
Jordan, who runs the team, maybe even Stacy, Frizzle and Jordan.
The person that I thought of was, is the woman, Jen, I'm sure you know her name, the woman in Bath who runs.
Jamie Gore.
Yeah,
You just had to say the woman in Bath and we all know Jamie.
I don't know, who is it, Jamie, huh?
Jamie Dorr.
Well, because she's running the Mid-Coast Youth Center, but I mean, yeah, I mean, she'd be a good one. I think it's just a matter of she serves that community, so I think there are differences in the communities. But
yeah, maybe she wouldn't be like part of a focus group, but maybe kind of like an expert sidebar person. I don't know exactly who he's interviewing, but
Remember that part of the discussion we had with Bob was that he might not necessarily tell us we need a building, but he might be able to lead us in paths of programming or other type avenue of services to provide.
Right.
Can we consider employing the student council to create a focus group as sort of a philanthropy for the school?
Or capstone project.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, capstone, I mean,
Also the parent groups at the elementary schools.
PTOs, yeah.
PT.
Well, and if we're thinking of teens, it would be middle school, which is a little bit less active in that way, maybe. But
Yeah, they don't,
it's
yeah.
more elementary,
right.
but sure, you know, we can still think about it. Yeah. Anything else for teens? No. How about childcare? We could, I'm sure, get a list of Topsham childcares.
Erica, is there a group of you?
Oh, right, Erica.
No, you don't. Okay,
I
I know.
don't know.
I mean,
I'm still
there's,
so
there
new
is
to
some
it.
licensing. I mean, I think there is some licensing that's necessary for a certain amount.
Yeah, so there's a
Tom
list, you
might be
can go
able
to
to-
this, you can go to the state website and it will list daycares by town.
Right.
You'll get a whole list of the licensed daycares.
Where else might we find information about childcare?
Homeschoolers,
Homeschoolers,
a
yeah.
homeschool group is pretty big in Topsham.
Good. How about young children? I had written down also young children. So that might be, what about just Rumpus Room came to mind. That place in Brunswick. Where kids go play.
She lives in Boston.
Yeah.
Oh, she does?
The library used to run lots of programs for young families, and so I'm sure
Mariah.
would be a good resource.
What's her last name? Mariah.
Mariah. Mariah. She's Mariah.
Sewell.
Cool, thank you.
All right.
Leslie, I just thought of somebody, actually, it goes back to the arts, but I guess it's crossover is dance, is Joanna Patterson, because she runs a moving company.
Dance, got it.
But she has like, a lot of younger kids doing her classes.
Her name?
Joanna Patterson.
Okay. So Rumpus Room and Mariah, so what else do young kids do in this area that we could connect to? Sports.
Is there any church group?
I was gonna say the rec.
Yeah.
God, I have to tell you that this spring, I say it's over, is the craziest and busiest we have ever been. Wow. Numbers
Good.
are just through the roof.
Wow.
And there's just not enough space.
I just thought of the martial arts place too.
Yeah.
That is in Topsham, the one on Elm Street.
Yeah,
Would that be young children or arts? I don't know. I'll just put it
actually
down.
goes all the way up to adults.
Does it?
Yeah, he does a pretty extensive there.
How about athletic? What's the?
Miramichi Soccer Club is probably worth thinking about. The hockey group, which is now Six Rivers.
I mean, there's also like Cub Scouts, Girl Scouts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of times they're looking for places to meet because the schools
Yeah.
won't let them in anymore.
Yeah.
And I think, Lynn, you were talking about churches, that we probably have to find a place for that.
5,000 eggs.
But they have their church.
Yeah, they might not need space, but I don't know, maybe they might help sponsor events or something.
Yeah, or part of a focus group.
Yeah, yeah, it might help with a focus group or something, yeah.
And then, as far as the young children goes, there's Bright Start here, and then the one over by Home Depot or whatever what's that one?
Building
Start.
block,
Building blocks.
Bright Star uses the high
It's
school, don't they?
Stepping stones.
That's the one, stepping stone.
Stepping stone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And then what's the one right next to the DMV now?
A place to grow.
A place.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Building and Bright Start. Okay.
They have Scott too, or Dolly Kavanaugh now.
Oh, yeah, Pajevska Day School.
And then anything else?
Trying to keep
with-
his notes organized.
I can always
Refer to
do
the
that. I can give
video.
you this, too. Yeah. Churches, anything else with, in what way? Maybe, I'm trying to connect it back to the community center and in what way? Like would.
I think Lynn said they might help fill up focus groups. They might help
Well,
us get
and
people
when
to
churches
participate.
are
Oh,
just
they could
starting
bring
out,
people
they
to the
rent.
focus.
Yeah.
Yes, they could spread the word, okay?
what about the Legion in terms of like focus group? Is that useful in any way?
I was considering veterans, but I mean, not all veterans utilize the Legion. So
I think it would be.
I think they're worth having an engagement with, including them in a discussion.
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe in the Rotary.
Yes, I think that's good.
Do we have a Rotary?
I was just gonna say about, the one thing about the Legion is they do allow Mary Meeting to use their soccer fields, so they are connected at least a little bit to the recreation stuff.
And we're part of the discussion today because they've also are allowing some baseball teams to use it and nobody knows who's using it when. It was an interesting conversation. So, you know, that's why I said space is definitely a need.
Mhm. All right, let's move on to those with no children.
Sure they're within all these people. that we just wrote.
Well, we have the Western House, we have the Highlands Green,
What's the first one you said?
Western,
What's that?
the house that is up right next to, if you go to the high school and you turn left to cut through to go to Atlantic Federal Credit Union,
Yeah,
there is a senior housing development there.
Can we just create it within people we're already talking to? Because, I mean, the Highlands, they all have children.
Maybe maybe the name isn't necessarily people without children. But it's one thing that struck me. I was in Jackson, New Hampshire a little while ago with their community center. They had this beautiful kind of arched thing over a picnic area. And I thought, that's kind of cool. You have this place to have some barbecue, you know, community group, have a barbecue or something. So I don't know if it's maybe social group, maybe rather than people without children, but it's people looking for a place to kind of gather and toast marshmallows on a Friday night.
Well, there was.
Yeah,
a-
I guess I was thinking about, I mean, it doesn't really probably matter if you get them, however you get them. It might be through some other outreach in church and whatever other groups, but I was thinking more of that like younger couple that's not quite, but they're active, or maybe they don't want kids, like between like that early 20s to like that. There's kind of like this time where there's just like this group of people who are young adults, but they're not really in the whole family thing yet, like that group. And I don't really necessarily know how to grab that group. Maybe through some of the bike committees or something like that.
Thinking is, couldn't it be a question on our screening process, you know, type situation, then you could create a group that from another target group?
yeah, I think this will
Yeah.
probably.
Maybe
That's
that's
what I'm saying. You can find those people
Yeah.
within the questions that you
Yeah.
ask
Yeah,
on the screening process,
okay.
those without children.
Lonely people. The lonely people.
You know,
Okay.
another organization we probably shouldn't forget is Six Rivers mountain biking, because they are a huge portion of us, the trails that we have. And the pump park that is coming.
Well, and the Cathants,
Cathans
Yeah.
River Education
Yeah.
Alliance, yep,
that's a big deal.
Caroline would be useful.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, I'm putting these under athletic even. Could be whatever,
Yeah,
it can be
trails
rearranged,
are-
okay. Any other athletic focus? Focus group?
Figure
What
out
other
that.
kind of athletes? So we have martial arts, marinating soccer, Six Rivers, bike,
Skateboarding,
anything local?
no.
Pickleball.
They will be building. one
Pickleball.
in Brunswick.
Seems like a lot of- Maybe this is more the my over 50 crowd. But a lot of people like to play pickleball, so that's.
We could maybe connect with Maine Pines.
We
people,
have a
maybe?
pickleball court, we have pickleball equipment in my office, it has not been checked out.
Maybe people don't know.
Where's the
I
court?
didn't
know
know
it.
about this.
You didn't know,
I
it's on
didn't.
your basketball court, you know those little light blue lines that are down there?
Okay, well, nobody told me that.
We have encouraged, there's a group that did come and talk with us that we're gonna start it. We have a group that plays croquet on our field
Volleyball.
every Sunday morning.
Dodgeball's making a huge comeback. All this stuff, I mean, skateboarding, it's all making big comebacks right
I think we should put in a bocce court.
now. Bocce's good.
Okay,
I have to tell you, we can put in an outdoor volleyball court, that my volleyball women are
Mhm.
begging to keep going for the month of May.
Mhm. Okay, well, I wrote all those down, croquet, dodgeball, skateboarding, pickleball, volleyball. The thing we need to do is figure out, how do we connect with people who are doing those things?
Most of that stuff we
Okay.
have a huge database.
Okay, so we
have
just
over-
individually.
Yeah, we have
Finding
over
them.
5,000
Worry
people
about
in
it.
our
Athletics.
Okay. All right, two more, disabilities. Rusty Wilkins. You would love that.
I would say,
Independence Association.
Independence Association, yes.
Jim's not, who's doing it now?
Ally Burko. Steve knows that.
Burko?
Yeah,
Okay,
I can get all the contacts.
okay.
Is there, oh, what's it called? The group that does, I can't believe I'm drawing a blank on this, the group that does the, that
Skiing?
helps people do sports. What are they called?
Maine
Special
Adaptive,
Olympics?
Maine
Yeah.
Adaptive.
Maine Adaptive, yeah.
Yeah, don't they have an office in Brunswick or something now?
I don't know that.
I think they're
What
in, I actually think they're in Fort Andros, if I'm wrong. I may be wrong, but I thought they were there.
Well, they still probably could be useful. What
Yeah,
about
so
this?
that-
I can't think of the name of the group. Right next to the high school in the old Bubba's. It's
Oh, yeah.
Village.
the
something.
village. Yeah, I
Right.
think definitely there.
Spindleworks in Brunswick isn't just Brunswick, is it? I don't know.
That's part of it.
That's part of Independence.
Perfect. Covered.
But I'll put the.
You've got this all in the churches, right?
Link them all together. It would be part of the screening process.
I'll put Art Van there too.
Oh, efficiency, okay.
All right, and then the older community, so we have Highland and Highland Green. The focus group, anybody else that we,
Also on Elm Street,
Elm
not
Street,
Highland Green.
Elm Street Assisted Living?
Yeah.
That's got less things to offer, is what I'm. Where Highland Green has everything.
But I bet could give us a bunch of people through Lions. 'Cause you-
When she showed up, I was like,
You're kind of shut in and somebody, a group that maybe isn't going anywhere right now.
Hi, Isla.
She's not
He's on
home.
all right. It's Isla and Jules, but yes, I'm gonna actually cut out. I don't know how much more you have on the agenda, but I'm just gonna stop while I'm driving and stuff. So,
Always safe thing to do.
Bye. Bye.
all right, thanks, guys.
Bye.
What did
Okay,
you say, Elm Street, what?
assisted living?
Elm
Yeah.
Street Assisted Living.
What if,
And
I was just thinking, what about the library in terms of their access to different groups? I don't know like what kind of programming they're having now, but
Yeah, I have the school library down as covering a lot of different topics.
I meant the town library.
Well, that's what I meant, the town library.
Oh.
With Mariah Sewell, right? Yeah. And that was gonna cover young children and all sorts of things that they would like to do, but they can't.
Program too.
Oh. Right, a reading.
There's a young adult
Clubs.
librarian
Ah,
who runs programming.
Wow.
They do a lot of good stuff there.
Mhm.
But I bet you're Kate's right, they would have a good lead on some older
Yeah.
people that would give perspective of activities they like to do.
Yeah.
And they also connect with artists, they're always displaying the different artwork and stuff.
What about
And
Mary
they
Giving
do their
adult?
photo, they
Yeah.
do their photo, their month of the pen and their month of the photo. They have each of those that they do.
Okay. And I know we've talked about,
Armed Forces.
I put veterans on that. older
Oh, there's
people.
that place over there, right? That little building. Is that Army?
I don't know what little.
They have
place.
money.
Oh, by Sam's.
Oh, I know.
The recruitment center.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah, they just want to come and meet the teens.
yeah.
To get them signed up.
We haven't talked about any restaurants and that's probably not a need in any way, right? I'm just sort of scanning the town in my brain. There's not really a reason to connect with restaurants, other than maybe teaching a cooking class or something like that, but we do any sort of a kitchen.
I mean, I think you could do the Taste of Topsham as one of your, it could be an activity we could do that could draw the restaurants and draw people. If we were looking for collecting data or talking to people, we could do a Taste of Topsham and invite local restaurants or places to do. I mean,
Yeah,
we
that's
have
what we talked about.
111 catering, we have a bunch of different private. Layla, is Layla with 111? I don't know where she is right now, Melody. But there's a number of them around that do that type of stuff, so.
Right.
Gets you data.
Actually, the catering business too might say they're looking for a venue to do events or something, so it might be a potential.
Caterers,
source.
that's not a. that's good.
Blueberries
I like
is
that.
always very interested in that type of thing.
Great guy. too.
I think 104 would, Mike's interested in that kind of stuff. I think, depending on what we're doing, Paul Bondivers at 99 would be involved. He's very community minded. So depending on what it is, if we wanted to do an activity.
One of four me could bring the bands. For us, do that.
He has free parking as it is.
Overflow. Okay, should we leave it at that? Does that feel okay? That's a good brainstorm. So the other thing, so I want to be aware of time. So it's 7:35 and there's a lot left on our agenda. I would recommend that we table focus group locations for pop-ups and responding to survey respondents, and we get through the rest of our agenda. Because I think that stuff can wait a bit. Right,
Motion
Is
to
that okay?
accept.
okay, motion. I gavel, I don't gavel that for that.
Gavel everything.
I'm not strong in Robert's rules. Okay, so, I put on here social media, how do we share information as we move forward? So I just wanted to have a conversation about that as far as the Topsham Community Center website is great and our minutes are put on there and all of that. But I don't know that people know to get to go there. Like I thought about advertising that we needed committee members on the Topsham Cares Facebook
It got
page.
advertised about 2 weeks ago.
Oh, I missed it.
Raya Swamola. Is that how she says it, Raya?
I'm not sure.
Swamola. She's on the conservation committee, But what she did was she put a whole ad together in a flyer. And put it together on, these are the committees that have vacancies and are looking for members. And one of the sites had a long conversation about people in Topsham not being able to afford a community center.
Okay.
So when they saw that we were looking for members.
Yeah.
So I belong to all of those, just so I can read them and kind of get a pulse of where people are. And when she advertised it, why do they have that committee? So it was some of that. So I think we have to be open to, yes, we can use the town webs at the Facebook page of the town if we wanted to do a slide or advertise things. I think that's good. We have a habit of, we don't let people comment on the town's website. We offer the information. It's more of a sharing spot. We have kind of tight with that. We're cautious with that, not letting it. But we could certainly, I mean, this town hasn't gotten into anything as far as policy for committees having, I know the energy committee has their own website,
Right.
Facebook page.
That might be something to, in your update. When you go in front of the select board, you could say, because I think you were potentially maybe thinking you wanted a name change too.
Mhm.
So you probably want to do the name change before you set up whatever
The
you want to do.
website.
Mhm.
So you could run that, you could get their input on whether they, what they thought of the committee having its own Facebook page or whatever.
Mhm. But I think there is something to be said for then who's policing it and who's responding to comments and all of that, so. Anybody else have thoughts on that?
We have the Parks and Rec page, and I also have an identity as the Parks and Rec department, because we created a Facebook page long before there was all of the components or separate things of Facebook, as far as government and business and all the rest of it. So we kind of have, there's 3 pages that are all connected to each other.
Okay, what else did we talked about this here and there, anything else with that?
I think we talked about, well, I mean, the Plan Your Topsham Facebook page was what we used, so it wasn't the comp plan page, it was Plan Your Topsham. And that's how we advertised different things that we were doing for the comp plan. And so I like the idea of just more of an informational rather than having like comments and dialogue and stuff, that, because then it has to be moderated. But I do think people probably want a place to find out what's going on, where we can, because Facebook's nice for creating events. So then, people can save that if we're doing something, whether it's our meetings or something else. But I guess that's a question that we could ask the select board, because we don't want to have something it takes a lot of management. It's just another way to reach people with information.
I like it to be as centralized as possible too. So if we could stick with the Topsham website, Topsham Facebook page. If there's something that we as a committee want to create an event or have something shared, and it could be shared that way with no commenting.
Yeah, but I do think what Mary Kate experienced with Plan Your Topsham, they had their own identity. And if you're going to create a name, or you're thinking of changing from community center committee or whatever, that you create that as an identity that you communicate events and process with, that you don't necessarily have them, you don't have to, my concern is that, how do I want to put this? You have to babysit it if you make it too big or too, and I think that's why I think we need to think about how we want to do that.
Yeah, I mean, what I like about the page, and again, I don't know, I think Carol was managing at one point. I guess we'd have to talk to Rod to see how much interactivity, and I think even Vanessa was managing at the consultant. But because even if you have a website, like even if we continue to post stuff on our page, the Facebook page helps to boost it, because people don't really passively go to the town site unless they're really looking for something. And so, you know, I mean, we did pretty well, you know, pushing out the survey, but that was, you know, with, I think we did the postcards, right? So that was,
Probably Pam's Facebook that did most of it, I think, you know, as much as anything was the top of our page.
I think that, I think there's a lot of, we have a lot of different places that we could make that work. I think putting the cards out, I think we sent it out through our software. The town is just about to, when I get back from vacation, one of the first things we're doing is creating the Topsham Connect page, which is where people can go in and sign up for notification on all sorts of things. And that there'll be a mechanism that the police department, if they have
Parking ban.
a what?
Parking ban.
Parking, well, yeah, if there's a parking ban for snow, we put it out there, we could do telephone calls with, there's a whole spectrum. We don't even know everything it can do yet, and we're just beginning. But that's something that's gonna start happening in May. And, you know, it's, you know, if there's an accident, a road's closed, we can pinpoint on GPS the addresses that are affected by it and notify them. There's all sorts of things within it that we can use. I can hardly wait.
What are we looking to utilize social media for again?
Engagement.
So we don't want to use a template that's already out there? Like I mean, something like Topsham Happenings already has 2.6 thousand members on it.
well, I think, just to go back to what my original point was, is that, you know, I was a supporter of what the comp plan was doing. So I liked being able to search on Facebook, find the topic that I was interested in, and then I could get updates on that because I, you know, just like you do with a business or something like that. And so if we're looking to keep people informed and to be proactive about what we're doing, it's an idea. Maybe we don't do it right now, but it's an idea of a way to brand or whatever what we're doing. So maybe it doesn't have to be right now.
Well, but this group on here, they started like a year ago and they already have 2.6 thousand members. Man, it's a domino effect.
Right, but what I find is that if you create like what Mary Kate's saying, the Clean Your Topsham or the community center page, then a lot of those people that control that, grab your stuff and share it on that. So you want to have something you control and then other variants
Yes.
can control it.
Sure.
Exactly. A place to have a base for your content. Exactly.
I think it just really creates that identity too. And if you do get to the point where you're doing fundraising or whatever, then all of us can share it, invite all of our friends, and it's click, 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 and you're done.
And then we have to create our identity first and then we move on to the social media.
Right, so I
Right.
think that's why
Yeah.
the whole thing about whether we have a logo or a design, whether we rename ourselves, whatever, that branding is
branding.
what.
Is
Yeah.
Plan Your Topsham going away or is that something that can be, because that's pretty catchy.
Could be Elon Musk take it away.
It's all about efficiency.
Well, there is an implementation. Yeah.
Recreate in Topsham. Now, I'm trying to think, you know, with quotes like recreate, but you know what I'm saying? There could be, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying there's lots of. And I have to tell you, when I was in college, our recreation department had a car with two people parking and said, let's recreate.
This is being recorded.
Wow.
It was college 40 years ago.
Lift up on this.
So I'm seeing that if we're gonna move forward on this, we need a name, we need a logo, we need somebody who knows how to create a Facebook page. So it can't hurt to move forward on some of those things. And the next thing on our agenda is the mission statement, so that's kind of branding in that way as well. But what about a logo?
So
Heather Hollenbeck,
we
Yeah,
should all have homework.
that's what she does.
yeah, okay.
She lives in Topsham.
We have insort, we have, don't worry, that's a
Names,
simple one.
the name's more important. The logo can come pretty quickly.
Right, so we're gonna figure out the name if it's gonna change to Topsham Community Center Exploration Committee.
Boom.
Right?
Yeah, probably something a little more breezy than that.
See,
Oh, you
that-
mean the name for the, okay.
That's a nice way of saying it, Mary Kay.
Got it, yes.
What's that, the TCAT?
I don't know. I get you, sorry. We have a name, I'm like, we have a name.
Topsham
You mean for
Community
the
Center
Facebook thing,
Exploration
okay.
Committee
Recreate.
Chair,
Recreate.
acting. Okay,
Community.
no, we can't do it today, we could all come back with ideas.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna come back with ideas for the name. That's an action step.
Action,
Brainstorm. Okay, and logo. Well, we know that we've got Heather in our pocket if we need that.
I've got Heather in my phone. If we-
Okay, so I thought, to move on to the next one. So this is our current mission statement. I don't know who has this in front of me, but in front of everybody, but I'm gonna read it. The mission of the Community Center Committee is to understand the desires and determine the needs of the Topsham community for an accessible, affordable, sustainable building that would serve the multi-generational community and foster social connection among Topsham citizens. The committee will facilitate the inclusion of many stakeholders, including the public, library, and school district, into a process to develop a needs assessment. I realized after our redirection by the select board that that second sentence is probably not accurate anymore. So I thought we might want to talk about that. I think the first sentence is probably spot on.
What if you just take out the including the public library and school district? So you just say, committee will facilitate the inclusion of many stakeholders into a process to develop it.
Or various stakeholders.
Did we redo that
I took that off the
website?
website.
Okay, so then we haven't. I thought we talked about that before.
Maybe we did and maybe we didn't update it, yeah.
No, I don't think we did. I just remember us talking about it. So that's why I was thinking.
Okay. The inclusion of, so what would be the process to change our mission statement? Is that something that we would also,
You have the power to change admissions.
Yeah.
okay, we don't need select board
No, you have,
involvement.
I mean, this mission statement was written with, you and Rob were the only people that are still on the committee. So it needs to be something that this group
Okay,
embraces.
yeah, that's what I thought with a new blood, we could talk about this. So does that work if we just change that second sentence to the committee will facilitate the inclusion of various or many stakeholders into a process to develop a needs assessment? Are we bigger
Am I the
than
only
that?
one
Are
that-
we going past that though? You
I'm the
know?
one that always thinks money when you say stakeholder. I don't know. I understand that it's what the definition of stakeholder is, but I always think has to do with money. Just
Okay.
feels like the word money. I don't know if there's another word for it.
It seems like we need to still have the like exploratory language in there or something, because as we talked with Bob about, it's not necessarily about a sustainable building necessarily. We're just trying to identify what the needs are for this part. I don't know. It seems like it's putting us in a box a little bit. I don't know.
Mhm. Right. So. Maybe that's part of it, is that, as Bob has said, we don't know what his recommendation is gonna be, and I don't feel like this. And so say Bob comes back with, you just need more resources, you don't need a building. Then what happens to this committee? Are we still connected and moving forward on his recommendations? So is it more something about just creating support for the community and Mary Kate what kind of public health kind of language, around just facilitating positive engagement with each other, something
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and I was almost even thinking like, probably not using this exactly, but affordable programming or Instead of sustainable building.
All right, at 10 of 8, do we have the energy to do this? No. So I think it's worth doing though. And let's just make sure we do it before May 5th. Right, that's what we need to do. I would like to have that, I think, as a goal to table, I mean, another tabling.
That's that 3 weeks.
May.
Rewrite the
Is it
mission
really?
statement.
Okay, we're not
Yeah.
presenting,
Today.
I guess we're not
Yeah.
presenting it to the select board, so maybe it doesn't have to be connected to that.
You can tell them we're in the process of rewriting our mission statement,
Okay.
because we realize that it needs to be.
Okay. Great, well, so we have some of the agenda already for next time with the focus groups. How do we move forward on this? Location consideration for pop-ups, responding to survey respondents, and then this mission statement.
The name of the group, or if we want
Yeah.
to do some work on that. I was going back through the minutes and I wanted to tell you that there were a couple of things here. We realized that the boards and committee page was in 3 places, and so we've taken care of that and cleared up that kind of stuff. So I just want to report that that stuff's been taken care of. It's not left
Right.
hanging.
And as far as referring back, I did, one of the action steps from the last, on the minutes is that Leslie will create a draft document around just describing the committee and actions to date, along with projected future steps to share with the wider community. And I did draft something, and so far Mary Kate and I did talk about it once. I just wasn't sure about what point do we bring that to everybody and try to work on that. So she and I we thought we'd go back and forth a little bit with it and brainstorm it a few times before, and then maybe share something at the next meeting with as far as we've gotten. Anything else about Mary Kate?
No, I think that's good. Just, yeah, we want to be able to present a draft, like outline of something for people to comment on.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll bring that next time. Anything else? I want to talk about the next meeting. Probably done by next meeting, so we thought we would maybe shake it up a little bit and talk about who is available, what days of the week, because Mary Kate can no longer do Mondays, and we've got new members who we don't know what their schedules are, so.
I am not available Tuesdays or Thursdays.
And Thursdays are pretty much out for this building.
How about Wednesdays? Wednesdays,
Yeah, that seems like it'd be good for me.
Erica?
As long as it's not raining, you could be here by 6:30. Steve's running a basketball program.
On Thursday.
Oh, that's right. I was thinking it was Wednesday. Okay, it is Thursday, sorry.
I think that's okay. What time? 6:30?
Why did we meet today again? I don't remember why it was,
So soon,
yeah.
We were
because we're trying to get ready for the select
Thinking
board.
Is it
we
because
were
of
gonna-
the vacation?
We're
Oh,
trying to
it's-
get ready for the
okay,
select
we just,
board.
yeah. So are we
I think
looking
so.
for
I
May?
think so.
now?
Girl Scout night,
Oh,
but that's all the time, so I think
Right.
I can.
okay. And if we're,
what weeks of what is it, like second and fourth, a third, or first and
It's
third?
been all wonky with getting into the schools and not finding meeting spaces, so it's kind of sporadic.
So it'd be nice to have a community center for those.
Right, it would be nice, if there's space available to Girl Scouts.
oh, that is on our list, right?
So what day were you?
I think it's flexible.
Monday,
Wednesday, Mary
Wednesday.
Kate, was that okay?
I mean, Wednesday's better than Monday for me.
Okay.
This
So-
room is booked on the 27th for the charter commission. So, I don't know how soon you're planning to meet.
I don't think we need to meet in 2 weeks.
It's 20.
Well, the big meeting, the board meeting's on the 5th, so I don't know if the 4th is what you want to look at. Are we needing to prepare for the 5th?
I mean, last time I wrote something up and I shared it with you guys to see if there was any, anything that needs to change.
Yeah, I think we can do that
I
again.
think that's fine. Okay. So if we're looking at, May 11th, the second Wednesday in May? Yeah, okay.
Theoretically, the historic district commission's here, but I'm not sure how often they meet. So I think we could either they won't be meeting at all, or we could get upstairs or vice
Yeah.
versa. So we can
Okay.
make it work.
We can have a backup for the 18th. And then maybe we get one more in maybe June 8th before school's out. We're looking at that. Do we want to try to just schedule 2?
You want?
June 8th. Mary Kate, yes?
June 8th, I have as a question mark, the MTA awards ceremony for sports. I don't know if anybody's getting conflict for that, but for June 8th, I'm not involved in that, but
Okay. Well, let's put those down. And still 6:30? Do we want us, is that a good time, 6:30 to 8?
That's fine with me.
Yeah.
So the 11th of May and the 8th of June?
Yeah.
And you think that can work, or you can work around it?
Yeah. Okay, that's great.
Well, I have no idea about June, because that's like a million years away.
I know, right? Which is why we'll book it now, just in case things can work around us. Okay. So does everybody know the action steps? What was that again?
We are going to brainstorm ideas like a name, logo, etc. Utilize the mission statement and try to consider a new mission statement writing, as well as. Well, actually, those were the first 2 action steps. We need to categorize our stakeholder groups for sure.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to delegate
Brains.
people for things on that, or.
Nope, my thought was we could just put sheets up and stick, that,
Could.
make those whole lists and just go through them and write where they fit logically.
Right,
So I'll be on the agenda next week.
okay.
Yeah.
Great.
And you and Mary Kate will finish up your document that you will present to us next time.
and then Leslie, are you working on remarks for the Board of Selectmen or statement for that, some report for the 5th, or?
Yes.
Okay.
I welcome any help. If anybody wants to brainstorm with me, I definitely do best with that. So
I'm available for that, yeah.
I'll probably do it sooner than later while it's fresh, and then,
You'll have a week off.
yes, I do.
Are you going?
I'm going away for
Somewhere?
it'll be nice, yeah. Great. Okay, so what do we want to do? Well, we can probably stop recording. We just talk about what we want to do with our cell phone numbers and stuff.
You don't want to put those
Oh, I got a
on
gavel.
permanent recording.
I'm gonna call the meeting to close. Thank you.
What did you